Ying Ying St. Clair, waiting between the trees. My daughter has put me in the tiniest of rooms in her new house. This is the guest bedroom, Lena said in her proud American way. I smiled. But to Chinese ways of thinking, the guest bedroom is the best bedroom, where she and her husband sleep. I do not tell her this. Her wisdom is like a bottomless pond. You throw stones in and they sink into the darkness and dissolve. Her eyes looking back do not reflect anything. I think this to myself, even though I love my daughter. She and I have shared the same body. There is a part of her mind that is part of mine. But when she was born, she sprang from me like a slippery fish and has been swimming away ever since. All her life, I have watched her as though from another shore. And now I must tell her everything about my past. It is the only way to penetrate her skin and pull her to where she can be saved. This room has ceilings that slope downward toward the pillow of my bed. Its walls close in like a coffin. I should remind my daughter not to put any babies in this room, but I know she will not listen. She has already said she does not want any babies. She and her husband are too busy drawing places that someone else will build and someone else will live in. I cannot say the American word that she and her husband are. It is an ugly word. Architecture. I once pronounced it to my sister-in-law. My daughter had laughed when she heard this. When she was a child, I should have slapped her more often for disrespect. But now it is too late. Now she and her husband give me money to add to my social security. So the burning feeling I have in my hand sometimes, I must pull it back into my heart and keep it inside. What good does it do to draw fancy buildings and then live in one that is useless? My daughter has money, but everything in a house is for looking, not even for good looking. Look at this end table. It is heavy white marble on skinny black legs. A person must always think not to put a heavy bag on this table or it will break. The only thing that can sit on the table is a tall black vase. The vase is like a spider leg, so thin only one flower can be put in. If you shake the table, the vase and flower will fall down. All around this house I see the signs. My daughter looks but does not see. This is a house that will break into pieces. How do I know? I have always known a thing before it happens. When I was a young girl in Wuxi, I was Li-hai, wild and stubborn. I wore a smirk on my face, too good to listen. I was small and pretty, I had tiny feet which made me very vain. If a pair of silk slippers became dusty, I threw them away. I wore costly imported calfskin shoes with little heels. I broke many pairs and ruined many stockings running across the cobblestone courtyard. I often unraveled my hair and wore it loose. My mother would look at my wild tangles and scold me. Hi, Ying Ying, you are like the lady ghosts at the bottom of the lake. These were the ladies who drowned their shame and floated in living people's houses with their hair undone to show their everlasting despair. My mother said I would bring shame into the house, but I only giggled as she tried to tuck my hair up with long pins. She loved me too much to get angry. I was like her. That was why she named me Ying Ying, clear reflection. We were one of the richest families in Wuxi. We had many rooms, each filled with big, heavy tables. On each table was a jade jar sealed airtight with a jade lid. Each jar held unfiltered British cigarettes, always the right amount, not too much, not too little. The jars were made just for these cigarettes. I thought nothing of these jars. They were junk in my mind. Once my brothers and I stole a jar and poured the cigarettes out onto the streets. We ran down to a large hole that had opened up in the street, where underneath water flowed. There we squatted along with the children who lived by the gutter. We scooped up cups of dirty water, hoping to find a fish or unknown treasure. We found nothing, and soon our clothes were washed over with mud, and we were unrecognizable from the children who lived on the streets. We had many riches in that house, silk rugs and jewels, rare bowls and carved ivory. But when I think back on that house, and it is not often, I think of that jade jar, the muddy treasure I did not know I was holding in my hand. There is another thing I remember clearly about that house. I was 16. It was the night my youngest aunt got married. She and her new husband had already retired to the room they would share in the big house with her new mother-in-law and the rest of her new family. Many of the visiting family members lingered at our house, sitting around the big table in the main room, everybody laughing and eating peanuts, peeling oranges and laughing more. A man from another town was seated with us, a friend of my aunt's new husband. He was older than my oldest brother, so I called him Uncle. His face was reddened from drinking whiskey.
Ying Ying!
He called hoarsely to me as he rose from his chair.
Maybe you are still hungry, isn't it so?
I looked around the table, smiling at everyone because of this special attention given to me. I thought he would pull a special treat from a large sack he was reaching into. I hoped for some sweetened cookies, but he pulled out a watermelon and put it on the table with a loud pong.
Kaigwa!
Open the watermelon, he said, poising a large knife over the perfect fruit. Then he sank the knife in with a mighty push, and his huge mouth roared a laugh so big I could see all the way back to his gold teeth. Everybody at the table laughed loudly. My face burned from embarrassment, because at that time I did not understand. Yes, it is true I was a wild girl, but I was innocent. I did not know what an evil thing he did when he cut open that watermelon. I did not understand until 6 months later when I was married to this man and he hissed drunkenly to me that he was ready to kai gua. This was a man so bad that even today I cannot speak his name. Why did I marry this man? It was because the night after my youngest aunt's wedding, I began to know a thing before it happened. Most of the relatives had left the next morning, and by the evening, my half-sisters and I were bored. We were sitting at the same large table, drinking tea, and eating roasted watermelon seeds. My half-sisters gossiped loudly, while I sat cracking seeds and laying their flesh in a pile. My half-sisters were all dreaming of being married to witless young boys from families not as good as ours. My half-sisters did not know how to reach very high for a good thing. They were the daughters of my father's concubines. I was the daughter of my father's wife. His mother will treat you like a servant, chided one half-sister upon hearing the other's choice. A madness on his uncle's side, retorted the other half-sister. When they tired of teasing one another, they asked me whom I wanted to marry. I know of no one, I told them haughtily. It was not that boys did not interest me. I knew how to attract attention and be admired, but I was too vain to think any one boy was good enough for me. Those were the thoughts in my head, but thoughts are of two kinds. Some are seeds that are planted when you are born, placed there by your father and mother and their ancestors before them. And some thoughts are planted by others. Maybe it was the watermelon seeds I was eating. I thought of that laughing man from the night before. And just then, a large wind blew in from the north and the flower on the table split from its stem and fell at my feet. This is the truth. It was as if a knife had cut the flower's head off as a sign. Right then, I knew I would marry this man. It was not with joy that I thought this, but wonderment that I could know it. And soon I began to hear this man mentioned by my father and uncle and aunt's new husband. At dinner, his name was spooned into my bowl along with my soup. I found him staring at me across from my uncle's courtyard, hoo-hooing.
See, she cannot turn away. She's already mine.
True enough, I did not turn away. I fought his eyes with mine. I listened to him with my nose held high, sniffing the stink of his words when he told me my father would not likely give the dowry he required. I pushed so hard to keep him from my thoughts that I fell into a marriage bed with him. My daughter does not know that I was married to this man so long ago, 20 years before she was even born. She does not know how beautiful I was when I married this man. I was far more pretty than my daughter, who had country feet and a large nose like her father's. Even today, my skin is still smooth, my figure like a girl's, but there are deep lines in my mouth where I used to wear smiles. And my poor feet, once so small and pretty, now they are swollen, calloused, and cracked at the heels. My eyes, so bright and flashy at 16, are now yellow-stained, clouded. But I see almost everything clearly. When I want to remember, it is like looking into a bowl and finding the last grains of rice you did not finish. There was an afternoon on Tai Lake, soon after this man and I married. I remember this is when I came to love him. This man had turned my face toward the late afternoon sun. He held my chin and stroked my cheek and said,
Ying Ying, you have tiger eyes. They gather fire in the day. At night, they shine golden.
I did not laugh, even though this was a poem he said very badly. I cried with honest joy. I had a swimming feeling in my heart, like a creature thrashing to get out and wanting to stay in at the same time. That is how much I came to love this man. This is how it is when a person joins your body and there is a part of your mind that swims to join that person against your will. I became a stranger to myself. I was pretty for him. If I put slippers on my feet, it was to choose a pair that I knew would please him. I brushed my hair 99 times a night to bring luck to our marital bed in hopes of conceiving a son. The night he planted the baby, I again knew a thing before it happened. I knew it was a boy. I could see this little boy in my womb. He had my husband's eyes, large and wide apart. He had long tapered fingers, fat earlobes, and slick hair that rose high to reveal a large forehead. It is because I had so much joy then that I came to have so much hate. But even when I was my happiest, I had a worry that started right above my brow, where you know a thing. This worry later trickled down to my heart, where you feel a thing and it becomes true. My husband started to take many business trips to the north. These trips began soon after we married, but they became longer after the baby was put in my womb. I remembered that the north wind had blown luck and my husband my way, so at night when he was away, I opened wide my bedroom windows, even on cold nights, to blow his spirit and heart back my way. What I did not know is that the north wind is the coldest. It penetrates the heart and takes the warmth away. The wind gathered such a force that it blew my husband past my bedroom and out the back door. I found out from my youngest aunt that he had left me to live with an opera singer. Later still, when I overcame my grief and came to have nothing in my heart but loathing despair, my youngest aunt told me of others, dancers and American ladies, prostitutes, a girl cousin younger even than I was. She left mysteriously for Hong Kong soon after my husband disappeared. So I will tell Lena of my shame, that I was rich and pretty, I was too good for any one man, that I became abandoned goods. I will tell her that at 18, the prettiness drained from my cheeks, that I thought of throwing myself in the lake like the other ladies of shame. I will tell her of the baby I killed, because I came to hate this man so much. I took this baby from my womb before it could be born. This was not a bad thing to do in China back then, to kill a baby before it is born. But even then I thought it was bad, because my body flowed with terrible revenge as the juices of this man's firstborn son poured from me. When the nurses asked what they should do with the lifeless baby, I hurled a newspaper at them and said to wrap it like a fish and throw it in the lake. My daughter thinks I do not know what it means to not want a baby. When my daughter looks at me, she sees a small old lady. That is because she sees only with her outside eyes. She has no Chuming, no inside knowing of things. If she had Chuming, she would see a tiger lady, and she would have careful fear. I was born in the year of the tiger. It was a very bad year to be born, a very good year to be a tiger. That was the year a very bad spirit entered the world. People in the countryside died like chickens on a hot summer day. People in the city became shadows, went into their homes and disappeared. Babies were born and did not get fatter. The flesh fell off their bones in days and they died. The bad spirit stayed in the world for 4 years, but I came from a spirit even stronger, and I lived. This is what my mother told me when I was old enough to know why I was so heart-strong in my ways. Then she told me why a tiger is gold and black. It has 2 ways. The gold side leaps with its fierce heart. The black side stands still with cunning, hiding its gold between trees, seeing and not being seen, waiting patiently for things to come. I did not learn to use my black side until after the bad man left me. I became like the ladies of the lake. I threw white clothes over the mirrors in my bedroom so I did not have to see my grief. I lost my strength, so I could not even lift my hands to place pins in my hair. And then I floated like a dead leaf on the water until I drifted out of my mother-in-law's house and back to my family home. I went to the country outside of Shanghai to live with a second cousin's family. I stayed in this country home for 10 years. If you ask me what I did during these long years, I can only say I waited between the trees. I had one eye asleep, the other open and watching. I did not work. My cousin's family treated me well because I was the daughter of the family who supported them. The house was shabby, crowded with 3 families. It was not a comfort to be there, and that is what I wanted. Babies crawled on the floor with the mice. Chickens came in and out like my relatives' graceless peasant guests. We all ate in the kitchen and missed the hot frying grease. And the flies. If you left a bowl with even a few grains of rice, you would find it covered with hungry flies so thick it looked like a living bowl of black bean soup. This is how poor the country was. After 10 years, I was ready. I was no longer a girl, but a strange woman, a still married woman with no husband. I went to the city with both eyes open. It was as if the bowl of black flies had been poured out onto the streets. Everywhere there were people moving, unknown men pushing against unknown women and no one caring. With the money from my family, I bought fresh clothes, modern straight suits. I cut off my long hair in the manner that was stylish, like a young boy. I was so tired of doing nothing for so many years, I decided to work. I became a shop girl. I did not need to learn to flatter women. I knew the words they wanted to hear. A tiger can make a soft prrn prrn noise deep within its chest and make even rabbits feel safe and content. Even though I was a grown woman, I became pretty again. This was a gift. I wore clothes far better and more expensive than what was sold in the store. And this made women buy the cheap clothes because they thought they could look as pretty as I. It was at this shop, working like a peasant, that I met Clifford St. Clair. He was a large, pale American man who bought the store's cheap-style clothes and sent them overseas. It was his name that made me know I would marry him.
Mr. St. Clair,
he said in English when he introduced himself to me. And then he added in his thick, flat Chinese,
like the angel of light.
I neither liked him nor disliked him. I thought him neither attractive nor unattractive. But this I knew. I knew he was the sign that the black side of me would soon go away. Saint courted me for 4 years in his strange way. Even though I was not the owner of the shop, he always greeted me, shaking hands, holding them too long. From his palms, water always poured, even after we married. He was clean and pleasant, but he smelled like a foreigner, a lamb smell stink that can never be washed away. I was not unkind, but he was curtchy, too polite. He bought me cheap gifts, a glass figurine, a prickly brooch of cut glass, a silver-colored cigarette lighter. Saint acted as if these gifts were nothing, as if he were a rich man treating a poor country girl to things we had never seen in China. But I saw his look as he watched me open the boxes, anxious and eager to please. He did not know that such things were nothing to me, that I was raised with riches he could not even imagine. I always accepted these gifts graciously, always protesting just enough, not too little, not too much. I did not encourage him. But because I knew this man would someday be my husband, I put these worthless trinkets carefully into a box, wrapping each with tissue. I knew that someday he would ask to see them again. Lena thinks Saint saved me from the poor country village that I said I was from. She is right. She is wrong. My daughter does not know that Saint had to wait patiently for 4 years like a dog in front of a butcher shop. How it is that I finally came out and let him marry me? I was waiting for the sign I knew would come. I had to wait until 1946. A letter came from Tientsin, not from my family who thought I was dead. It was from my youngest aunt. Even before I opened the letter, I knew. My husband was dead. He had long since left his opera singer. He was with some worthless girl, a young servant, but she had a strong spirit and was reckless, more so than even he. When he tried to leave her, she had already sharpened her longest kitchen knife. I thought this man had long ago drained everything from my heart. But now something strong and bitter flowed and made me feel another emptiness in a place I didn't know was there. I cursed this man aloud so he could hear. You had dog eyes, you jumped and followed whoever called you, now you chase your own tail. So I decided to let Saint marry me. So easy for me. I was the daughter of my father's wife. I spoke in a trembly voice. I became pale, ill, and more thin. I let myself become a wounded animal. I let the hunter come to me and turn me into a tiger ghost. I willingly gave up my chi, the spirit that caused me so much pain. Now I was a tiger that neither pounced nor lay waiting between the trees. I became an unseen spirit. Saint took me to America, where I lived in houses smaller than the one in the country. I wore large American clothes, I did servants' tasks, I learned the Western ways. I tried to speak with a thick tongue. I raised a daughter, watching her from another shore. I accepted her American ways. With all these things I did not care. I had no spirit. Can I tell my daughter that I loved her father? This was a man who rubbed my feet at night. He praised the food that I cooked. He cried honestly when I brought out the trinkets I had saved for the right day, the day he gave me my daughter, a tiger girl. How could I not love this man? But it was the love of a ghost. Arms that encircled but did not touch. A bowl full of rice but without my appetite to eat it. No hunger, no fullness. Now Saint is a ghost. He and I can now love equally. He knows the things I have been hiding all these years. Now I must tell my daughter everything. That she is the daughter of a ghost. She has no chi. This is my greatest shame. How can I leave this world without leaving her my spirit? So this is what I will do. I will gather together my past and look. I will see a thing that has already happened, the pain that cut my spirit loose. I will hold that pain in my hand until it becomes hard and shiny, more clear. And then my fierceness can come back, my golden side, my black side. I will use the sharp pain to penetrate my daughter's tough skin and cut her tiger spirit loose. She will fight me, because this is the nature of two tigers. But I will win and give her my spirit, because this is the way a mother loves her daughter. I hear my daughter speaking to her husband downstairs. They say words that mean nothing. They sit in a room with no life in it. I know a thing before it happens. She will hear the vase and table crashing to the floor. She will come up the stairs and into my room. Her eyes will see nothing in the darkness, where I am waiting, between the trees.